Recording in progress.
That's why we need the benches on the trail.
Tracy's not here. I'm gonna get some recruit.
We got like 90 seconds now.
Yeah, face.
We're ready to start here.
Thank you.
Just standing up because we're gonna stand up anyways.
All right, let's start the meeting of July 9th, 2024, 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take the roll.
Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Crossman.
Here.
Councilmember Geiser. Here. Councilmember Hess. Here. Councilmember Palmer.
Here.
Councilmember Kaminsky. Here. Mayor DePinto.
Here. Moving on to the agenda approval. Is there anyone that would like to? Councilmember Kaminsky.
To approve the agenda.
Second by Councilmember Hess. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to presentations, we have the Prairie Line Trail Phase 2B. Cody, please.
Hello, Council. I'm here to give you kind of a quick presentation update on Prairie Line Phase 2B. This is the bridge over the trail. As you know, we just ribbon cut the trail about a month ago, and now it's time to start the next part. So we got 30% plans back 2 days ago. Sunday night, I think they came in. So we have them in front of us. There are some edits we're going to do, but I wanted to show them to you, kind of give you an update on where we're at. So as we go along, again, you'll be seeing this again in about 6 months as we get to 90% plans, then as we go to construction and all that. So I wanted to point out a couple things, and I'll hold these up so you can see them. There's a couple things you may notice on this delicious screen here. One is we have this chain link fence that we've already pulled back. So instead of doing a 8-foot fence, we're going to do a 5-foot fence. So you need at least a 4-foot 6-inch fence for safety. That's for horses and bike riders. So we're bringing it up to 5 feet for extra safety, but we want it low enough that people can see over it because it's a view, right? You want to see the view. So you can see where the proposed fence was. This is 6 foot 6 inches. We're going to drop it down just a little bit. And you can see families already having fun. That's not even building it. The next part that I think is really cool for this trestle conversion, and I'll show this to the audience afterwards, is you have the bridge going here. We are able to, with the structurals of the bridge, we could build 2 bump outs. So we're actually going to add a 4-foot bump out on each side that you can walk out to, and there'll be binoculars out there, and you'll be able to look over and see the water if you're not scared of heights. And you'll be able to kind of just see out the view without anything around you but this little bump out. And they can't be in any other spot but these two, so even if you wanted to move them, you can't. Structurally, this is the only spot they could be, which is really cool. We're going to add binoculars to both of these bump outs, so you'll be able to look down at wherever you're at. We're going to have 4 different placards. The 4 placards, one will have native fish of the Nisqually River on it. One will have history of the Nisqually River, and then one will have history of the Puget Sound pointing the other one. And the last one will be like a dedication plaque. They'll kind of thank everyone that's made this possible, including council and everybody on there. So we'll have that dedication plaque. And you'll see this, there's a slight stub out into Pierce County for the next section of the trail that'll connect us into the Pierce County Trail all the way to Roy. So we're at 30% plans now. We're going to make it fancier and nicer, but this is just the base of what we can do. The good news is we're already coming in about $200,000 to $300,000 under budget. Based on this, it is a grant though, so if we have money left over, we're going to try to do even cooler things, maybe make patterns or displays. Other things will make it even better because we want to use that grant money to make it as cool as possible and as amazing as possible. You can all turn these around so the crowd can see.
Questions, comments? Councilmember Hess?
Director Colt,
Yes.
I know you are a fan of fountains, things like that.
Yeah.
If we're coming under budget, is it possible, because during the spring, summer, we have the tubers that go down, rafters, things like that. Can we get the water guns that maybe you can drop a dime in or something like that and be able to squirt them?
We did talk about putting a bungee cord on one of the bump outs so you can do the bungee out. Yeah, there will be some cool flare things that aren't requirements, but will be cool for someone to see. So one thing we did talk about is maybe having etchings in the fence. There's a couple different display fences where they have like a salmon that's cut into the fence. So you can, it's like a viewpoint, but it's also a cool little icon as you look at it from far away, or you're floating down, you're like, oh, there's fish in the air. So there's some cool stuff we're working on to do to spice it up and make it just like the rest of the trail for us, different than other parts of the trail and a little special.
Councilmember King Geyser?
What was the date? That it'll be complete?
The hope is we'll ribbon cut this time next year. That's what the hope is. And I'm always over optimistic and Todd's staring at me. So we're shooting for the end of next year. So by the end of 2025, this will be complete. It is nice. The bridge is already there. So we're just refurbishing the bridge, but there's a lot of ecological things we have to do where you have to prevent stuff from falling in the river. That'll be the part that'll slow us down and how much Department of Health and Ecology are involved.
Councilmember Crossman?
Do you know where Pierce County is with their build out?
Yeah, so we meet with Pierce County on a quarterly basis about where they're at. They're talking about maybe starting in 26 or 27 on their section. They're not sure. It's about funding. Our goal is to get to Roy after this. So I'm shooting for 27 being done with our section and having it all the way to Roy. The hope is once we get done with this, we can create a trail somewhere along there that STP can jump on this bridge and go. Before we even get to Roy. So we've already talked to the STP a little bit about possibly the year after next. We don't think next year we'll have a way to get to this bridge, but the year after next, maybe we can get them on this bridge and off of 507. Or sorry, 510. No, 507, I'm sorry, 507. Yeah, so off 507 across that McKenna Bridge is the hope. So in 2 years, hoping to get STP onto this, so.
Other questions, comments? Councilor Kaminsky, then Hess.
Exactly what color is that fence, Cody?
We've looked at a bunch of different fences. So we've looked at either like black, we've looked at like a wrought iron. So this is not how the fence is probably going to be here. We've looked at, I looked at the French love bridge. There's a bunch of, we're taking inspiration from a lot of places to try to find the coolest design of fence. This was just the bare minimum. You have to have something like this. Great, let's make it better. So that's what we're shooting for. If we wanted to make it cheap and look just like it is, it would be, if you were driven down I-5 and you see where they have the fences over the passenger things, that would be what we do. But we're not cheap or Yelm. We're cool. We're going to do something better.
Councilmember Hess.
Director Colt, for this bridge, I don't know if it's ever been discussed or not, but will it have the capability that if emergency vehicles need to, because of traffic, they need to get through, would they be able to traverse that bridge, or is it not designed in such a way?
So the weight rating on it, we'll get that when it's all said and done of what can support. We don't assume that like a fire truck could go down it because fire trucks are pretty heavy, but there'll probably be the new smart cars we're trying to get for the police. They could probably drive down it. But no, maybe a smaller vehicle could pass on it. I don't know the weight ratings yet. So once I get the weight ratings, I'll be able to say that for sure. The hope is that you could have some kind of smaller vehicle drive over in an emergency situation only. 100% pedestrian traffic, horse traffic, bikes are totally okay.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Cody.
I'll leave it over here so if you have all the time.
All right, moving on to public comment. We have a few cards. If you want to go and address the council, please fill out a card, bring it on up. Currently, we got Dustin Stephen.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, for the opportunity to present this evening. My name is Dustin Steffen, my wife, Michelle. We do own youth athletic recreation and development, most commonly known as Yard here in town. We are a locally owned and operated homegrown business. We are an athletic and academic tutoring facility that's open to the public to serve our community and ultimately build the future leaders of the community and ultimately just continue to grow what we have going here. In addition to the athletic and academic portions of our youth development, we also offer life skills type courses, basic cooking, CPR, babysitting courses, resume and interview type skill courses. We're in the works of developing an intricate leadership program that will help get our kids directly involved in things like council and chamber and those types of things. So we're building leaders in our community. We recognize that the community needs something bigger, such as the YMCA is the hot topic right now, right? A place where local community members, youth, sports events can take place in one central location. I would argue that our facility, while small at this point, services all the things that YMCA will offer, in addition to the academic piece that the YMCA doesn't necessarily offer. We also recognize that with the recent failure of the levy, that there's going to be a gap that the community, the business owners and individual sponsors need to pick up some slack to help our school district in this short term. And Yard's prepared to step in that role and help fill those gaps where it is appropriate. Essentially, we currently have a good working partnership with the city of Yelm, specifically the Parks and Rec Department. We just got done with our first annual Color Fun Run here at the city park. It was a huge success for our first year, and we look forward to future conversations with that. Yard is a sponsor in the fitness pad over here that was built a few years back. We're actively involved with the barbecue rally, numerous volunteer opportunities and donation sites. All that to say that we're very involved in the community. We're housed here in the community. We both work here in the community in very direct capacities. I would propose that the resolution 648, in counter to that, keeping that project in-house in the community versus outsourcing that to a YMCA, a national company. Keep that in-house in the community where we have more control, more say, to a program that's local and direct ties to the community.
Final thoughts, please.
Yeah, this concept is not unheard of. Centralia just down the road, Centralia with Lewis County, Centralia Community Schools, and the Hub program has a great facility down there. And I would model that project something similar to that, where we can host outside events as well, keeping the revenue and family resources in the community versus outsourcing that to neighboring agents or cities.
Thank you, Dustin. Sorry for butchering your last name.
No, that's okay. I'll forgive you, sir.
Sure.
Question?
Councilor Crossman.
Ask a question?
Yes.
You say you have a small facility. Do you have plans to expand that?
I mean, the long-term goal, yes. Directly, we're a small business and try and cash flow the operation. So, the long-term goal, yes, I would love a large facility where we could host sporting events such as, basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, wrestling events, things of that nature.
Kind of like a whole athletic facility?
Whole athletic facility.
I'm just kind of picturing what's your vision, like what will you?
Yeah, it'd be a whole athletic facility. If you've ever been to the Hub, very similar to that concept. I would just, make sure we have an emphasis also on the academic side. Would be the main difference between what my vision is and the Hub. But yeah, a large sports complex, which would include, a weight space, open space where we can have indoor practice space for our local teams and host tournament style projects, basketball, volleyball, that sort of stuff, and really keep the revenue and continue to vitalize the economics of our community as it continues to grow.
And I know the pool is also the big topic as well. And so I think it'd be great if we could partner with the school and even have like a swim team or something along those lines. Because several schools in the area do have pools and do have swim teams. So we could compete in that level too.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, sir.
Aaron Miller.
Thank you. It is July, Christmas in July. Santa is getting ready. We're so excited. And Councilman Hess, I'm so with you. Water cannons on the bridge. Just to spice it all up, and more than 25 cents, I think could be a moneymaker. So, I want to thank you for the senior center and the continued support. The mayor was there, provided he and his significant other provided a meal for us on Monday. And the Yelm Senior Center, we are living our best life right now. And it's because this community supports us. It comes in at every turn. And I know Jeannie wants to keep it quiet, but she did take the last check to the bank for the mortgage. It is paid. And we're going to try to do some kind of a significant celebration that will include all of you. And thank you for bringing health and life and excitement to the old folks. We really do appreciate that. The other part is would really like to encourage you as you look at bringing in funds and doing something larger here, please do not forget 98597. You know, we have I don't think the county is a adequate partner, but as you look at funding, try to find a way that we can reach out, because all of us that live outside the Yelm city limits, we benefit from everything you do. You know, and I think, you know, we've got so much food in this town. We need exercise facilities. The largesse that's happening, but thank you very much. And don't forget us, 98597, we're for real. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Melody, is it Turtle?
Give this to you, don't.
I'm hoping it.
Yeah.
You have to sit there.
That's you. Don't give it to Joe.
My name is Melody, and I grew up in Olympia. Just celebrated my 50th reunion from Timberline. And but I am here because I am a part of Living Water Yelm. And I have had a tent for crafts for the kids at Prairie Days for the last couple of years. And this year I built a birthday cake so the kids could pop out and get their pictures taken. And then I had the kids make birthday cards for Yelm, and so that's what's in the box. You can open it. You know?
Wonderful.
I think there's close to 100.
Wow.
They loved it. Benefits that does.
Thank you, Melody. All right, Gila Russell.
Well, on top of that, that's cool. So I just want to talk about the YMCA real quick. There's a couple things that I have concerns of. Only the citizens of the city would be paying the bond tax, correct? That's a lot of money, could potentially be a lot of money for us who live in the city. That then benefits everybody else. Rent prices are already high, guys. There's a lot of people struggling. We see it every day on social media. Just something to consider, please. As Stephens mentioned, we already have a really cool facility in town that's doing these great things for the community. It would be really awesome if we could just boost their business instead of paying more to bring in a new business that's essentially doing the same things without the academic part. We have a ton of sports clubs in this town already that are successful and thriving. I know my son's team has won multiple tournaments around the state to kind of bring Yelm on the baseball map, which is really cool. So just something to consider, instead of us paying like a lot of money, I think it was like 30 billion was in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Well, it's 10 billion bond would be for the bond billion, yeah. 50 billion, sorry. It's not my fault, it's hot. That's a lot of money that we could potentially already just put back into the community that we have and grow what we have. I would worry about small business, family-owned gyms. I know for my family, my son has a gym membership. We couldn't afford to keep his membership and go to the Y. I have little kids who are gonna want a pool, or they don't care about working out, they wanna go swimming. We would have to then not support the family gym so that we could go to the Y. That's a tough decision to make, especially for somebody who wants to support our small businesses and a family with not a ton of extra money. There was something else I was gonna say and I can't remember. I'm stuck on billion. So those are my points. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. All right.
I forgot to ask, where's your facility that you have now?
Yeah, well, we're at 305 Creek Street, right across from Mountain Lumber.
Okay.
And we got a whole like baseball side and the whole academic side. We got 2 units there
Okay.
currently.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone online that wishes to testify?
Not have any hands raised.
All right.
We try. We gotta get.
Alrighty. Let's move on to our under new business, or excuse me, the consent agenda, the June 25th regular meeting minutes. Councilmember Hess.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second by Councilmember Palmer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on under new business, we have Region 3 Mutual Aid Omnibus Agreement. Chief.
Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm here to propose a motion to have authorized Mayor DePinto to sign the Region 3 Mutual Aid Omnibus Agreement. The mutual aid agreement is basically between the Homeland Security Region 3 counties, which is Grays Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Thurston. The cities, tribe, political subdivisions, and state institutions and higher education within those counties all come together with this agreement. And they're saying that if there's an incident occurs, that they'll respond and help each other. This is something I think would help our community as well. So it's important that we look at it and sign it, obviously, and get back onto. We've been doing it for 20 years at least. 6 months ago, I came to you guys to have an extension made or signed by the mayor because this main agreement wasn't drafted. So we needed that extension just to carry over because the original one had expired. It's a 5-year agreement. The extension now is passed. The new agreement has been issued, and I'm just asking authorization to have Mayor DePinto sign that agreement.
Councilor Hess and Palmer.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Mayor DePinto to sign the Region 3 Mutual Aid Omnibus Agreement.
Second. Second by Councilmember Palmer. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Council. All right. Moving on to resolution number 648, a resolution of the City of Yelm, Washington, providing admission to the qualified electors of the City of Yelm at the November 5th, 2024 general election. Proposition asking qualified voters to approve a construction bond not to exceed 10 million over 28 years. We do have Jim Nelson and of DA Davidson and Kyle Kronk, the Southtown YMCA online joining us. For the folks watching and council as well, this is just a first reading. The verbiage that is actually going to be used is going to be slightly different. The same 10 million over 28 years. And Jim will go ahead and explain the bond language of it. It would go to the voters on the November 5th general election for that ballot. It would cost the city $4,200, which we do budget for up to $6,000 each year. To put in perspective, the February 24th election with 6 school districts would have cost us $10,500. If we did it separate or just by ourselves, it would cost $65,000. If it was in the primary, it would have been $6,500, and that's just estimates. It could go up or down slightly. Other than that, I would like to pass out these resolutions that would have the legalese, if you will, of the bond attorney, Cynthia Weed, who drafted this for us. This would be very similar to the resolution that you would see and up to you to pass or take no action on. I do want to stress that the council would not be raising anyone's taxes. They would simply be allowing the residents of Yelm to make that choice. It wouldn't be the city council increasing property taxes. It would just be giving the people of Yelm an opportunity to vote on this decision. That being said, let's go ahead and turn it over to Jim, who will be talking about the bond.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, council members, staff, Kyle, nice to see you all again. So, Kathy, if you can pull up my presentation, and if we turn to page 2, you can see, the slide 2, which is one more. The estimated bond levy rate is 30 cents per thousand. We ran this over a 25-year financing term, but we recommended that the ballot title state 28 years or less. The reason we add a few years to it is just in case if interest rates moved up. We're just coming off the period where the Federal Reserve hiked interest rates. So it was a strategic thing to do, especially last year. I think it'll probably stay at 25 years, but in the ballot title, it should state a few years longer just to play it safe. And so in the ballot title, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. It doesn't specify the levy rate. It specifies the amount where it would say $10 million or less for a term of 28 years or less. And right now that estimated levy rate, which is just an estimate, is 30 cents per thousand. So on a $450,000 home, you're talking about a monthly tax increase of $11.25. So first off, any questions on slide 2?
Please continue.
We can go to slide 3. The next question is it within the city's legal debt capacity? You have three purposes as far as debt capacity. You may have heard me talk about this from previous presentations. You have one purpose known as general purpose for capital improvements. A second category is parks, open space, community centers, facilities for economic development, aquatic centers, pools, recreation centers. And that's where we're recommending that you would apply the usage of the debt capacity. So you can see there in the middle of the page, you have $40,661,000 in available debt capacity just for that, and you'd use up approximately 10 million. So you'd be left with 30,661,000. And then strategically, you're preserving your general purpose debt capacity. With voter approval on general purpose, you have another currently remaining about 38.4 million. And then and of that amount, you can do up to 22.2 million in non-voted debt capacity. But one has to be careful on non-voted debt because that's being paid out of the city's general fund. And the third category doesn't really apply. That's why I tried to fade it out. It's for utility purposes, but nowadays most cities will issue water and sewer revenue bonds, which is not counted against your debt capacity. So from a debt capacity standpoint, you're in a great position. We turn to slide 4. And again, great bragging rights for the city. For a city of your size, it's a great accomplishment. You achieved an underlying rating from Standard & Poor's of AA-, so you're in the high investment grade category, which is very good. And that helps lower the interest costs to the taxpayers. And the last slide, slide 5, not to put pressure on the mayor and staff, but I will. So slide 5 shows you that if you decide to move forward, then you can see the voter education timeline. And we're suggesting that, you immediately begin to recruit volunteers for a volunteer election committee. Those are the folks that can actually go out and ask for a yes vote. The city can only do factual information, but they can certainly do that. And the bond attorney and myself are happy to review that. And that's just the facts. So it's not persuasive. And so it's slated that on July 23rd, your next council meeting, you would have the vote to approve the bond election ordinance. And then we'd say immediately after that, the city starts their factual voter information campaign, and then the yes vote committee starts their campaign. And then, the mayor and city administrator would schedule presentations to the various citizen groups, community groups, the Rotary Club, the chamber, just to get the message out there, explain the facts. You can see August 1, we're recommending the city file the bond election ordinance with the Thurston County Elections Department. The deadline is August 6. But I think the important thing to remember is that even though your election date is November 5, the ballots are mailed out. They start to mail those out on October 18. And that's really the date you want to treat as if it was the election date, because we find that approximately 1/3 of the voters will immediately fill out that mail-in ballot and send it in, basically the first week they get it of October 18th. So we suggest any mailers and kind of key messages go out, at least I'd say 2 weeks prior to October 18th. Any questions on slide 5?
Councilmember Hess has a question.
Yes.
You state that the city will recruit for volunteers and all they're going to be doing is the yes vote campaign, and that the city, including the city council members, are only able to put out the facts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I believe I'll send you copies of the Public Disclosure Commission rule. I suppose, 1 or 2 council members, if they chose to, could be on a yes vote committee, and that would be their own personal decision to do that. But you certainly can't have a quorum of council members on that yes vote committee. But the yes vote committees typically made up, well, not typically, it's made up of volunteers, and their message really is vote yes. Whereas as far as city staff, the only thing they can do on the city's dime is to put out a factual information brochure that states just the facts and basically describes the project, describes the estimated bond levy rate of 30 cents, the estimated monthly cost, and maybe, talk a little bit more on the project.
It'd be similar to the school levy. The schools put out educational information. The yes committees did the campaign. Go ahead.
As a follow-up, and I guess I just need some clarification with this. I've always seen from the Secretary of State, as well as from the person here at the county level, the auditor, that whenever there's a resolution or a bond going, they put out saying we need somebody for the yes, we need somebody for the no.
Yeah.
Are we not responsible for putting that information out saying, hey, we need to have both sides, and the city is just going to have this resolution and then fund in some way with the volunteers a yes only campaign?
No, the city's not campaigning for this.
No, I didn't say the city was campaigning. I was saying the city does the recruiting. So that means somewhere along the line, something's coming out of the city to do that recruiting. But we're not recruiting for this, but we're not.
We'll ask for both. We'll ask for both. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's 2 different actions. So one, if you choose to have a yes vote committee, it's made up of volunteers. And so you'll have to go out and see, who's interested in participating. Then the other, for the voter information pamphlet, you have to get a volunteer, maybe it's 2 or 3 citizens, to write a pro statement for the voter brochure explanatory. And then you also have to ask for a con statement and see if there's any volunteers that come forward to do a con statement. And to be quite frank, a lot of times there are no volunteers that come forward on, to write a con statement, and that's okay too. But at least you sort of have to advertise that you're looking for citizens to write the pro statement for the voter information brochure, and then a con statement for the voter information brochure.
Thank you, Jim.
Additional questions?
No, please continue.
That takes care of my presentation, and then I'm happy to run you through the draft ballot title.
We do have another question here, Jim. Go ahead, Councilman.
Yes.
I was just waiting for the presentation to be over. I was curious, where does the bond money come from, and who makes the money off of that? Like who?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so the way it goes is, hopefully, fingers crossed, the voters will approve the bond on November 5th. Prior to that and immediately afterwards, then I'm talking, with the mayor and staff and saying, okay, how soon do you need your money? Do you need that $10 million right away, or do you want to wait a year? And so if the city needs the 10 million right away, then we'll come up with an estimated number, and then you'll be on the tax collection roll for 2025. And then probably around February, March, then we would complete the preparation for what we call a tax exempt municipal bond sale. We coach and prepare you for the rating presentation, get the rating grade, and then from there, market the bonds to investors. And we're trying to set the interest rate as low as we can while still getting orders for the bonds. And then from there, we complete the bond sale, finalize the interest rates, and then $10 million is wired to the city's restricted bank account. And that 10 million can only be used for that project that's described in the ballot title, the election ordinance. So investors are paid tax exempt interest every 6 months. And then for whatever maturity year they buy their bonds, maybe they buy it in year 5 or year 25, then at maturity, they get paid their principal. So basically the investors are fronting the money to the city, approximately $10 million. And then over time, then the investors are paid with tax exempt interest, and at maturity, then they're paid 100% of their principal back. So that's how it works. So basically, it's like we're serving as a bank, but it's a different structure because there's a rating involved, and it's what we call a public bond sale.
Councilor Richardson.
On average, can you give us ballpark? I know it's still rough draft on what the investor's percentage of the interest rate may be.
Oh, as far as the tax exempt?
Or what they would make on it. I know it's tax exempt. I just want to know what kind of money are they making on it. Everybody would like to know, I think.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up, but I've never had that question when it's not so much what they make, but it's what they earn.
Right, as far as the percentage of interest.
Yeah, so it's tax exempt, depends on where the market is, but I would say in the early years, they might be earning a tax exempt interest yield of, let's say, around 2%. In the 25th year, it might be a tax exempt yield of, say, 5%. And then when you do the weighted average of that, that's how we come up with that estimate on page 2, where the net borrowing cost is about 4.67%.
So they would get their principal back complete of what they invested plus whatever percentage of that interest.
Correct.
Any other questions for Jim?
Yeah, and related to that question, the bonds would be marketed to individuals. So we can certainly make the bonds available to local investors, as well as others like banks, insurance companies, money managers. Today, we just priced a bond for Quincy Valley Medical Center in Quincy, Washington. And that, priced, we funded $9 million, and that was financed over 25 years. Oh, I'm sorry, it was financed over 21 years. But that went real well. And again, it's a function of your rating and market conditions at the time.
Councilor Richardson.
Now that I'm understanding how everything works, what are the chances that local businesses or people in the community can purchase some of these bonds and make just the principal back plus the interest? That would be ideal. We want to kind of keep things local if there's a chance to make money locally. I know there are probably some private investors that maybe you have to report to, but is there a chance that the little guy in the community that could invest, maybe get the principal back and make some interest on that? Is there, what does that look like as far as opportunity for our own community to invest and make principal plus interest?
Yeah, I'm glad you waved your hand because now I recognize you. So yes, we could advertise the bond sale in your local newspaper. We do that 2 to 3 weeks prior to what we call the bond pricing date, and then just see what investors are if they're interested. But yeah, we can certainly make the bonds available. And yet I totally agree with you. It's a great opportunity for them. They know their city the best, and then to, buy bonds and support the city, that's even better.
So now that I'm learning all these new things and I have no idea how things work, being that we would collect taxes on ourselves, is it a conflict of interest to collect taxes within your community and invest in a bond and make interest off of that? There's no conflict there, is there?
No, but key city staff members, council members, the mayor, you cannot purchase your own bonds because that would be viewed as a conflict of interest.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Any other questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Kyle, would you like to add anything or from your perspective with Southside YMCA? You're on mute if you are. If you do.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm on my phone instead of a computer. Well, thank you, everybody, for having me here. City Council, Mayor DePinto, Jim, good job. I mean, the only thing I have to add, I've given a presentation. I've talked to city council members. We've done some education before. The city of Yelm and city residents in Yelm have wanted a YMCA long before I've been here, which is just going on 10 years now. The YMCA is about youth development and community building and creating strong communities. And so we're all about giving, this vote to the people to see, do they really want a YMCA, and let the people vote. And I'm excited that you've come to this part. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think we've talked about, what a Y does and that sort of thing.
Councilor Palmer has a question.
So Kyle, you've said in the past that the YMCA wasn't interested in the city of Yelm in the past because we failed that last levy like a decade ago. So now that this levy hasn't passed, are you guys still interested, or are we going to do this and then the YMCA is going to decide that, well, they're not investing in their community properly or something?
Yeah, no, we're definitely ready to work with the city of Yelm. Mayor DePinto and I spoke several times, throughout the school levy. My understanding is that the levy did pass in the city, in the city limits. And again, we want to support kids and families and everybody in the community. So, we're going to stand with the city of Yelm for sure. If this is the route that you want to go, then we would definitely be there every step of the way.
Councilor Kaminsky has a question.
I asked this before, I believe. We're asking the residents of the city to pay for the Y through the bond with greater taxes on their properties. And we hear a lot that people are concerned about their money. So I just wanted you to state one more time for the public, what happens if you feel that as a family you can't afford to join the Y after you've paid to get it here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Then, we don't turn anybody away. And I think this was my answer last time. We provide over $1 million worth of scholarships every year across all three of our branches. This would be the fourth branch. It would be no change. So if you come for childcare and our youth development work with academic achievement, leadership development skills, if you come to us for those programs, whether it's in a school itself or whether it's in the Y, we don't turn you away because you cannot afford the full cost. So
Someone have to go through a process just to qualify to get their free membership?
it's a little application process, but it's not like we ask for a bunch of paperwork or anything. We don't make you prove it, if that's what you're saying.
Okay.
If you tell me that you need aid, we give you aid.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kyle? Yeah, Councilmember Palmer, then Crossman.
So Kyle, we got a lot of local organizations. We got some here in the room with us tonight. Would you be interested as the YMCA in doing like joint partnerships with them?
1,000%.
To use
I was going to reach out to the gentleman and person that spoke with him. I didn't catch their names or their company name, but yes, I'm very interested in having a conversation. And one of the, somebody said something about small businesses. This came up last time. the YMCA has been in operation for 187 years. Two things about the YMCA that are unique. One is that it's all about the local community. So the YMCA does not go into a community and say, here comes the Y. The community invites the Y to come in because it has specific needs to be met. And what I'm understanding is that there's a lot of youth development needs in the city of Yelm, and there has been, way before I got here. So absolutely, we'd be 100% interested in working with anybody. And then from the small business perspective, I think we talked about this last time in the study session. I don't know of a community in the United States that has a YMCA that doesn't have multiple, whether they're small businesses or large businesses, other health and well-being centers within, stone's throws of YMCAs. And the most recent example of our example of that is in the city of Shelton. We have an amazing partnership with the city of Shelton. We have an amazing partnership with Mason County, and all of the small businesses that we're offering, health and well-being memberships and classes and even youth development work are still in operation and thriving today. So a YMCA doesn't answer everybody's needs. Obviously, we want to appeal to as many people as possible. But again, we're about community development. So yes, to your question about partnerships and collaborations.
Councilmember Crossman.
Sorry, the question came from somebody. How many members are currently from 98597 that you currently have at YMCA?
Oh, I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't have that. What was the zip again?
597, just the Yelm area.
Just the Yelm, yeah, Yelm zip code.
We have a Yelm address, basically.
I don't have that right now.
Now, you mentioned a lot about the youth here locally. What about the activities and services for the seniors and adults?
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. I mean, it's really interesting. So we just had a conversation. I came from a meeting before this meeting talking about, one of the Surgeon General health crises that they've talked about is isolation and loneliness. And that is not just true for seniors. That's true for everybody. Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how old you are. Isolation and loneliness is an epidemic. It's a national health crisis that we're facing right now, and it leads to all kinds of other things. So when you think about a YMCA is really about bringing people together and bringing communities together. And we do that for seniors, we do that for young people, we do that for people in the middle, we do it for families, we do it for athletes, we do it for leaders. I mean, really, when you think about a YMCA, it's all about convening people together. And then back to the local control idea is that you'll have a local board of advisors that will advise this Y on what's important to Yelm. So it has nothing to do of what's important in Olympia or what's important in Lacey or what might be happening in Shelton and Mason County. It's really what's happening in Yelm and what are your needs. And then that local group is helping direct, those programs, services, and stuff like that. And then that, back to Jim's point about, whether it's the recruiting in this case, recruiting the yes committee, the yes voting committee, we would be a big part of that. And, helping council get the facts out, make sure that people understand what they're voting about. And this really is back to the whole concept of saying, what do the residents of Yelm really want? And if they want a Y, they should vote, they should vote yes or no.
Any other questions, council? Councilmember Crossman?
Or for either of you, but who owns the land and the facility once the bonds pass and it's built?
You would. The city of Yelm would.
So do we lease it out to the YMCA?
Yes.
You guys just use it and do you guys pay the city to use it?
Yeah, we would come up with an agreement in the way that functions, but in the way that you're doing this, if you pass this to go to city residents, then you would own it because you're doing it this process.
How could you, just to go off that more, could you kind of share what the other agreements for other cities, what they've done, if they've bought property, if they've run a bond or similar?
I mean, every single, in the United States, I want to say, I don't have this particular document in front of me, but there are municipality and YMCA partnerships pretty much in every community in every state. And they're all different because, again, if I go back to that local community and local control concept, it really is about, what are the needs of the community? And then they try to figure out how to meet those needs, and then they come up with creative ways to do that. So in some cases, and in some cases, I was going to mention this earlier, that, there's multiple instances across the United States where there's a healthcare provider or a health system and a YMCA and then a municipality that co-own the building and co-fund the building. And then, then the YMCA operates the programs. Then the healthcare provider doesn't have to have, all the equipment to do, rehabilitation. They can use the YMCA pool, and you would never know that the person is, coming in there to rehab their hip, or they're coming in there because they're just a typical everyday YMCA member. And so that happens all across the United States. And we can have a ton of different examples and nuances about, operating structures, ownership structures, all of those things. We have all of that pretty much at our fingertips.
I think we got another question from Councilmember Hess.
You stated that the city would be the owner of the property and the structure. With that in mind, who's responsible for the maintenance of it? Is it the city?
Yeah.
Or is it why?
Yeah, all of that depends on the way in which we craft the agreement. So it can go whatever way it needs to go. In some cases, the Y would do all the capital maintenance. In some cases, the municipality would do the capital maintenance. But all of those things are part of the negotiating process to figure out who's responsible for what.
And ultimately, that would be a decision of the council, what that agreement looks like. Councilor Crossman.
So what's a typical lease agreement to YMCA look like on average? Like, is it market rate? Is it a special rate?
No, it's a special rate, usually around $1 a year.
So the citizens don't make the money back in any way, capacity?
No.
It'd be similar to what we do currently with the Boys and Girls Club. Any other questions? Councilman Richardson.
Well, just for understanding purposes, and maybe this is for the other guy, because as I'm looking at things and understanding, so then we tax we propose, and they get to vote on it, the city, a tax for them to have a bond. So they're taxed, right? So they're taxed on this bond, which goes to the investors for an opportunity to make non-taxable interest, right? And so it's interesting how this works. It just shows me how beautiful government is. So we get taxed as being in the city, and the investors get to make a principal plus 3 to 5% in their non-tax. It's just a beautiful thing. How do we get on that side of things where we can become investors of our own community? That would be nice.
Have money. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Kyle. Jim, appreciate you being here. Again, this is just a first reading here. There's no action necessary. We will bring it up again for council and the public to view at our next meeting in 2 weeks, where we would expect a vote or action to be taken. There's nothing else on that. We'll move on. Councilmember Hess.
It's not a question for them. It's something in reference to the whole discussion for us as council members. I want to reiterate something I brought up when we started doing this almost a year ago. We are asking the residents of Yelm, who own property in Yelm, whether it's business or what, to increase their taxes. And that has been pointed out before by several council members. 98597 is a 30,000 population. Yelm is 10,000, which is only at most 1/3. So we're asking for 1/3 of the people to pay for something that 2/3 of the people own, the only payment they need to make is a membership payment. Even though it's been stated that we can, if you say, I can't afford it, they get it for free, but no, that's the situation we're looking at. And when we first started this, I asked, why not make a park district that would be a municipality that would extend past the city of Yelm, have that become the taxing district, be able to not only support the Yelm, but also the parks that we have within the community, as well as some others that might be within that district. And I just want to point out that it was stated that when I brought that up, it was stated that, well, that will take too long. But the way I see it right now, we are at the same stage that we would be if we'd done the park district. Because right now we would be asking the municipality incorporated area, city as well as county residents, and maybe even it appears of who would want to create the park district. And then next year we would be having an election for the council members to manage that. And then on top of that, they would start figuring out how to do the why, whether it's a bond or how that's going to occur. And yet we don't have the property that we know where it's going to go yet. We have no plans of what it's going to look like. We just know that it's going to be a building with 2 pools, 2-story building, some gym area, things like that. We have so much that we still have to do that I'd love to see why come here, but being somebody who represents and, I work for the people within the city itself, have to be cautious about that. I mean,
You mentioned the people outside of the city limits wanting to represent them. Those are also the people that voted down this levy. Do you think they would support a vote to increase their tax for recreation? If you know it's going to be a no vote, why would we waste our time? I believe this would be the most logical choice to give the option to the voters, not to tell them they have to. It gives them the option. And unlike the community center, this administration will not pursue it if it fails. And it's a high bar it has to pass at 60%, not just 50%.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, they'd have to support this message. Councilmember Crossman.
So your answer, I think the question's the same. Sounds like that Councilmember Hess is asking, because I got an email from somebody this week and they asked, how come it's only city limits and not that whole radius of what that YMCA would pull from that's being taxed? So are you saying just because it's a greater chance of passing, is that why it's only for the city of Yelm and not for the whole area that it affects?
No, this would be for a property tax. We don't have the authority to tax outside of our local municipality.
We don't have the power to.
Yeah, the only way you could do that would be to go to the voters and have them vote to form like a metropolitan park district. And, I think it was Council Members Hess's statement, then maybe that's 2 or 3 times larger than the city's boundary. So first you'd have to get voter approval to form a park district or a metropolitan park district. That's going to take 50% or greater. Then you'd have to go back to the voters sometime later for actual voted bond. That would take 60% or greater.
Councilor Richardson.
So what he's just stating is a possibility to get that 98597 involved, but it's a little more of a process.
And I don't oppose going to them to create a metropolitan park district. I think that would be a good idea. I don't think in the time frame that we're trying to do this, it would make sense. If it would pass, so in the future, I believe it probably could contribute to this, though, or to the overall cost. Councilmember Kaminsky, then King Iser.
I was just going to say, the people that pay it through their tax, if they had no money left and they actually did have a free membership, then the people outside 95897, it'd be about the same amount of money when they pay for their membership as the people that paid for their tax. Kind of.
Councilmember King Iser.
Why are we rushing?
to get on the November ballot? Are you talking about overall timeline?
Perfect.
I don't think it's necessarily being rushed. We've been talking about this since about 2016. We've done studies since then. We've done a feasibility study. The Y's done another study recently. We've had discussions on it earlier this year. We've had discussions on it last year. I think the time has come where we either need to make a decision to find out if the people want it. If the people want it, then we council can decide, further action. If they don't want it, we move on.
So sorry. So then I guess a different question of that, because I see what you mean by we're not rushing, in a sense that we've been studying this and looking for all the details and all of that. But the other part is, so the bond itself, looking at all of the, like the debt capacity and where all of the money is coming from, it's not just $10 million to build the Y, right?
No, our portion would be about 10, and if council decided an extra 5 million from what Jim was talking about, the non-voted capacity. The total cost would be larger than that, probably closer to 25 million. And that's where the fundraising, that's where the state comes in, that's where the feds come in. And any grant money that we get would try to go towards this to lower that cost for the residents here.
And that's with the guesstimates of projected ideas of where, but there's still nothing solid. So
we have to, and I don't know if Jim or Kyle wants to chat to this, but we have to start somewhere. And the legislature isn't going to give money unless we start having plans, unless we start having buy-in from the local community. It's very rare that they just hand out money or funds to projects that aren't planned, that don't have support in their community or by their council or mayor. Councilor Richardson.
So just like every other project in the city, you have to have some kind of conceptual design in order to receive funding.
Absolutely.
So you're telling us from your perspective, we're not going to receive anything if we don't have anything in place as a concept. So this is pretty much similar to that.
Correct. And to Councilmember Hess's point, we don't have nothing. I mean, we will have what this states, which is a recreational facility with an aquatic center. That will be built. While we don't have the actual land, it will be bought with this. It will be planned, it will be bought. We wouldn't take this, and as Jim said, it has to go to this. We can't siphon it off for, some other fund or some other thing that we want to do. It has to specifically go towards this project. Councilor Crossman.
So kind of allude to this, how the price drop so much? Because I remember it being a lot more, and now it's only 10 million when it was a lot more than that.
I'm saying 25 million. Our portion of it would be the 10 million plus the 5 million if the council would so choose to approve of that after the election.
How come not just putting that whole amount in the bond?
I mean, we could, but I don't think that'd be fair to the community either. There is skin in the game.
Wait. Not be fair to the community, you said it's either they voted yes or no, so why not have them vote for the whole thing or not?
Rather than 30 cents per thousand, I'd rather put that towards them than 60 cents or $1 or $2 or $3 per thousand. That's my thought. I mean, if you want to put it higher cost, I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, it almost sounds like you're trying to trick people, because if people say, oh, it's only 10 million, but no, it's only costs a lot more than 10 million. And why not just put the whole amount out there and just be upfront and say, yeah, it's going to cost this is how much it costs, this is how much your taxes are going to pay for it. And so saying, oh, we're going to pull from here and here and here. But you're saying well, you guys vote for it, you approved it, but they're not approving the whole amount. Why not give them the opportunity to approve the whole amount?
You're right. I mean, we could just do this with Councilmatic without a vote of the people too, but I don't think that's prudent of us as taxpayer, as fiscal. Many of you perceive yourselves as fiscally conservative, rather trying to do the best for the people with the limited funds that we have. I think this is being frugal as we can, rather than give it the whole thing, whether the council wants to do it by themselves. As Jim said, we do have the capacity. We could potentially just fund this project and move forward if council so choose. But I believe this also gives the ability for the residents to choose, and the council, if they want to add the extra 5 million, knowing that the city of Yelm residents want it at 60%, or at least 60% of the property tax owners or the voters here in Yelm want it, then you can move forward. I think that having that full amount wouldn't be fiscally responsible for the residents here. I don't think it's being trickier.
Well, they got paid for it anyways.
I mean, in the general scheme of things, sure, if the feds, you know, the taxes you go, to the federal government, sure, the taxes you pay to the state government, sure. But we will try to get those grant fundings and they're typically given to these projects. Councilor Richardson.
So I'm just listening on, so you said we could do this without having a bond or anything. We could just do the full amount.
It's councilmatic.
Councilmatic.
Jim, do you know how much the amount is without a vote of the people?
Yeah, it's 22.2 million, but we usually counsel municipalities that you want to preserve some non-voted debt capacity for emergency purposes. All of a sudden, you need equipment, you need repairs on City Hall, you know, other things. So we typically don't like to, you know, you might say lead municipalities to max out 100% of their debt capacity. So your non-voted debt capacity is 22.2 million. So on the one council member's statement, you know, you could go to the voters for 10 million and then you could choose to also use 5 million of the non-voted debt capacity, and that would be paid out of the city's general fund. And so then that would still give you a remaining non-voted debt capacity of 17 million, which from a debt capacity standpoint is good.
And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2026, our other long-term bond is coming off?
Yep, that's correct. Yep. That's another like $1 million that'll come off.
Councilor Hess.
And then then the balance you'd have to make up with fundraising or grant.
And I'm circling back to something that was stated when I think it was Councilman Crossman that you were answering his question of we can't do anything until we have the money. And yet when we are applying for grants, applying for a variety of different things, we have to have some kind of concept. We have to show that we have put something forward. Why are we not doing the same thing when we're about to when we're about to ask the people to raise the property tax?
Are you talking about like the conceptual visuals that Kyle gave us, the YMCA earlier this year?
Whatever it might look like. In other words, we need the people. People have a right to know what they're about to pay for.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we need to have something that is going to continue to build and that all of a sudden doesn't become, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but all of a sudden doesn't become a rectangle building that has 2 pools and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll provide all of that.
Okay.
Councilman Crossman.
I know you said this is a draft. Will the final version have mention of the YMCA in there?
No.
It says
generic. It's the Yelm building.
Will that be anywhere in will that be in the pamphlet, will any mention of YMCA being a part of that?
It would be in the Yes campaign most likely, but it would not be in the official, what goes out to voters in this. It'll be in the Yes statement, sure, most likely.
Yes statement, okay, so it's at least there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the information that we have to provide to the auditor's office for the elections has to be very specific. That's why this language looks a little bit different than what was in the packets. Our attorney, Brent Dilley, reviewed those and they were fine, but they have to be fine. Our bond attorney was the one, Cynthia Weed, that did the actual draft that you see before you. This is what would this would be edited slightly, but this would be the basis that you would see in your packets for next week, or in 2 weeks, excuse me. And we will absolutely make this public for folks to look at, probably following tonight's meeting. Councilmember Kaminsky.
Kyle, how often does a project like this start and the bond goes through and everything, and then you can't get the extra funding? Does that ever happen? And is there a timeline that we have to get it in?
You mean for the extra funding?
Yes, the extra funding.
It's never happened to me or us here in the Southtown YMCA. And my guess, you know, my best estimate is that you're going to qualify for as much grants as the Shelton Y got, which was just about 4.25 million, if my memory serves. I mean, there's open times for when you apply for those funds from the state and from other grantees. So assuming that this moved forward and it went to the people and the people voted for it in November, then next spring in 2025, we would apply for the funds that would then, marry up to this project.
Including a legislative session for state funding.
So they apply or we
Correct.
apply?
We would apply.
You would apply?
We would, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments before we move on? All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, there's none scheduled. Moving on to standing committee council reports, starting with Public Safety Committee.
Public Safety Committee, we had a meeting last week. The chief briefed us that 3 officers have tested for detective, and we're hoping to have the results and have positions filled by January. So that's pretty good. We're going to be able to get our own detectives here, and we won't have to rely on outside agencies to help out.
We have our own detectives now.
Right, but we'll have more to be able to help out. And then Prairie Days, that was, he said that was a positive thing. Community support was there, and so that worked out really well. Don't forget, this coming weekend, we have the STP. Please be cautious with people on the road. 2 wheels do not stand up as well as 4. And there was the court updates that were put out. Right now is a great time to apply for a passport because they're not really that busy. Summer season, things like that. And then the fire department, they had their calls, and it's something that I think we as council can't really do much about it, but we really need to kind of work on educating the people so that they can start doing the reaching out to Southeast Thurston County Fire District. There were 170 calls. 15 of them had to be answered by an outside agency. And that sounds like a small one, but he also pointed out that one of them was that there was a child that fell out of a 3-story building. Our people couldn't respond to it. They had to wait for, I believe it was Lacey, to come out to respond to that. Another one was one that dealt with CPR. None of our medic wasn't able to respond, had to wait for outside agency to come in and do that. And as he put it, the person did not survive. These are things that I think are important. And so we really need to start working on something to get, because the funding, whether we find out more and have a better understanding of funding of how the Southeast Thurston Fire District is funded, which he said was developed in the 60s, 70s and has not changed. But he said also don't quote him on that. But I think it's important that we start looking at how that's done so that we can find out, because a city like ours, where we are an island within a large county with only 1 engine, 1 medic, and we're continuing to grow, we need additional support, or else we could be, houses and residents could be at jeopardy for emergency response. In particular, if we're looking at more businesses, one of them being considered is solar electric storage for that, because that takes a lot of firefighting. So, I mean, these are something that I think we should somehow either through a study session or find out what we can do to help educate people, to find out who to talk to. As Representative Wilcox put it, we really never really asked much of him. And even though he would help us out, but maybe we need to get our people to kind of start going, hey, this needs to get funded, or we need to find a way to make this happen, because we as a city, I don't see how we're going to be able to fund our own fire engine and medic at this time. So.
Do you want to remind, they are their own taxing authority. Right. It's not the city of Yelm's fire department.
No, it's not. That's why I said Southeast Thurston Fire District. We need to find a way to approach them to say, why is the funding? How can we go about getting, because our engine and our medics, they go out to Lake Lawrence, they go out to Bald Hills, they go out to a variety of areas. And when they're called out, we're now dependent upon Lacey to come and respond or Pierce County to come and respond. And that becomes a challenge, as I say, with summers, wildfires, they get called out for a wildfire, the engine can't leave the wildfire. And if a house or business is on fire, how long do we, they're going to have to wait for outside agency to be coming in. So that's, as I said, it's something that for our community, we need to really figure out how we can help our community advocate to get something from Southeast Thurston to help us out. And that's all I have for public safety.
Thank you. Sure, Harry, go ahead.
I added something in there because I'm a fire commissioner for Falls Hills District 17. And I think we've been toned out 3 times today to come in and to help Yelm. And so we are a pretty effective partner. You guys do come out periodically, but more often than not, with all the transport that's going on with the medical calls, which are the biggest portion of what all of us do, we are called to come in, and one was a CPR, one was a heart attack. And so they're, varying degrees, but, we're part of that partnership too. Yeah, just want to make sure that.
No, and that's why I said it's that we go out, we have to rely upon outside agencies, which then takes away from who you're supposed to be protecting if you're all.
So we're out of district at that point, and same with you. And it's a give and take, and there's nothing fair about it. It's just what we have to do to respond to the level of need that our population has. So, yeah, anyway.
The only thing I say, we can communicate more with them, and I do believe, that is warranted. But as far as directing them or trying to fund them or anything like that, like I said, it's not City of Yelm Fire Department, City of Yelm Police, but not the fire department.
And as I said, I understand that. That's why I'm saying we need to find a way to advocate. And if through our advocation, we also realize that no, the way of funding hasn't changed since the 60s. Maybe we need to start advocating for change in that.
A lot of the times they ask for engines and equipment from the legislature, and personally, I've supported when they asked for endorsement or something like that. I've supported that. But as mayor of Yelm or as a city council member, I'd be happy to advocate for if they have needs again. I'm always 100% going to help them out. But as far as us relocating our resources, that's why they have their own taxing authority.
Right. No, and that's why I say it's just maybe we find a way to advocate and then encourage our residents to start advocating even more so that it's shown that there is this concern.
Thank you. Public Services Committee.
No meeting.
Finance Committee. No meeting. Moving on to Mayor Stevens, your staff reports.
Mayor, just a couple things. 4th of July was impactful for police and. Oh, wait. That was kind of the highlight over the last week. All departments have started on budget work, and we're also still very actively involved in all 3 labor negotiations.
Do you want to talk a little about our reaching out to the community for the budget requests for nonprofits? Do we have that date out yet? Do we have that out?
We went out July 1st.
Is there a due date of the 31st? 30th.
30th, and then they will come to council. Outside agency requests will come to council in September to discuss with council kind of what their needs are and how any money would benefit what they're doing in the community, kind of like we did last year.
And are we reaching out to those in the past that have benefit from the council's budget? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else? All right, great. For me, thank you for all the discussion from the residents here to the council. These are tough questions, and it's a big decision the council's going to have to make, and the people are going to have to make. I would again just reiterate, this is not a vote of the council that's raising property taxes. This is just simply allowing the people of Yelm to make that decision for themselves. Other than that, we got our community conversations tomorrow, 6 p.m., 12 noon at, it's the Thai place, isn't it? Red Lantern. Red Lantern, yep. Red Lantern in Yelm, noon. And hope to see folks there. Other than that, we'll go to council member reports. Councilmember Kaminsky.
I was curious to know how many people were able to come to the 6 PM meeting. then.
Yeah, it was a little bit more. It was probably about 12, I'd say, or so, 11 or 12 from residents, and then we had staff as well. But it was higher than normal than our afternoon ones, but I think with more advertisement, more folks, because that's one of the complaints that we get is, we're holding these community conversations at a time when a lot of residents can't attend. Having in the evening, 6 PM gives more people an opportunity to attend.
Gonna
And
continue that once a month or something?
once a quarter. Yep. Yep. And then also in August, I don't have the exact date, but Cody appreciates you. August 14th, we will be having a town open house to talk about all the different projects we have going on. We will bring up the YMCA as well with the renderings and well, at that time, if council gives it to the people, we will bring up the renderings and all that stuff and all the information for the voters, just informational, not campaign wise. And then we'll also talk about other things going on in the city. Other than that, Councilmember Kaminsky.
I attended the Member Appreciation Day at the Chamber Lunch. It was very lightly attended, but it was really fun. And I didn't have any other meetings. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Palmer.
SWAC was canceled due to 4th of July on the 3rd. So they were doing some tours of different facilities, but yeah, so nothing else to report.
Councilmember Hess.
The only thing to come from intercity transit is in reference to competitions as they keep moving up. The drivers are for our transit authority. They are coming out as number 1 as it's looking. So things are looking good for them. They might once again win the state. So shows that we have some good drivers out there with the buses.
Right on. Councilor Kingheiser.
I also attended the Chamber Forum today for Member Appreciation. That was fantastic. In the past couple of weeks, I actually took 2 courses through the AWC Risk Management Services.
Congrats.
Took both of them, so that was great. Our barbecue rally planning is in full swing, and the chamber is very excited to be celebrating summer and our 100 years of Yelm. That's coming up July 27th. Just a bit of homework going around with the General Government Committee. I'm looking forward to that next meeting, and I will be attending my first Southeast Fire Authority meeting by Zoom tomorrow. So I hope to come back with a better report.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilmember Crossman.
Yeah, see the artwork from the beautification grants come along great. I had a couple of places in town. I know some ones walking about. Look forward to see that completed. Had a great Independence Day celebration. We were completely safe, no calls from us, but we heard you guys working hard. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are busy tonight. Thankfully not to our neighborhood. And I missed the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Planning Interested Parties meeting, but it was videoed and emailed out. So I got to watch that video, and that stuff interests me. It's interesting to see how that's coming along, and hopefully that will be before us soon.
Councilor Richardson.
It's like an executive session unscheduled. Motion to adjourn. Is that your job?
There is no executive session scheduled, but we do have a closed session after this to discuss union negotiations. Councilor Hess.
I did forget one other item. It's in reference to the City of Yelm Cooling Center. The library was advertised as a cooling center, but during weekend, because their AC broke, they kind of closed. They did not reopen until Tuesday. And so I was wondering, for within our community, where are the cooling centers so that we can make sure that seniors and people who own homes that don't have air conditioning, because that would never be something you needed in the Pacific Northwest, that if they need relief, they can get in.
Can I weigh in on that? I did actually reach out, to our senior center. That was once upon a time a cooling center. And actually our senior center is still talking with Thurston County. They reached out the last, time or maybe two that it was hosted. There was only one person, but they are kind of on that list to call. They just didn't, advertise it because it wasn't beneficial.
We
So.
can try to list those places that are doing that. I think that's a good idea. We'll chat with Lynn, communications coordinator.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, can I weigh in from the senior center?
We did reach out and let them know that we were available and we would, Jeannie would staff it or whatever we needed during this hot time. And she was, at the time when we had our board meeting on Monday, she was still waiting for a response. But she laid it out, said we are available and the air conditioning is working great in the building. So
It's good to hear. Thank you.
we're here for it.
All right, no executive session scheduled. Is there a second? Councilor Palmer, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Council, please stick around for the closed session.